Level 1. The material sorter. You do not enter the global sneaker factory through a store display where the shoes sit under clean lights and perfect glass. You enter through the material warehouse. The air smells like new rubber, packed fabric, cardboard, and a faint trace of industrial glue from somewhere deeper inside the building. Tall shelves rise above you. Pallets are wrapped in plastic. Rolls of synthetic leather, mesh, foam, rubber sheets, laces and shoebox blanks wait in labelled zones. Nothing here looks fashionable yet. Nothing looks expensive. Your first job is simple: sort the materials, scan the tags, move the right colours to the right carts. Keep sizes, batches and parts separated. Do not mix the white midsoles with the off-white midsoles. Do not send the wrong fabric to the cutting room. Do not assume two pieces are the same just because they look close enough under warehouse light. You are at the bottom of the system, touching the pieces before they become a product anyone will want. A supervisor hands you a small panel of fabric and says it will become part of a sneaker upper. You turn it in your gloved hands. It is thin, soft, almost meaningless by itself. But later someone may pay a high price for the finished shoe without ever knowing your face, your name, or the mistake you almost made before the shoe even existed. Then your scanner beeps red. Wrong material cart. Your stomach tightens. It is caught early, but the lesson is immediate. In this factory, small mistakes travel. A wrong roll can become a wrong cut. A wrong cut can slow a stitching line. A wrong line can delay an order meant for stores across the world. You move the material back, scan again, and hear the green beep. For now, the system lets you continue. But how far can you climb before a pair of sneakers stops looking like fashion and starts looking like pressure? Level 2, the cutting table worker. At level 2, you move from the warehouse to the cutting room, where the sneaker begins to take shape for the first time. The room is brighter than the warehouse and louder in a sharper way. Instead of forklifts and scanners, you hear the smooth rush of cutting machines, the soft slap of material sheets being laid flat, and the quick voices of workers calling for the next roll. Long tables stretch across the floor. Layers of mesh, synthetic leather, foam and fabric are spread out under white lights until every wrinkle is smoothed away. Your job is to help prepare the material before the blade touches it. You align sheets, check colour batches, place pattern guides, remove damaged sections, watch the cutting head move with a precision that makes every human hand around it seem slower. At first it feels satisfying. The pieces finally look like something. Side panels, toe sections, heel parts, tongues, linings. A sneaker that was once only warehouse material is now breaking into shapes the eye can recognize. But the cutting room has its own kind of pressure. A mistake here is not loud. It does not break the machine, it does not trigger an alarm, it simply becomes part of the next step. If the fabric shifts slightly, the shape may come out wrong. If the wrong color batch is loaded, the upper may never match the rest of the shoe. If the cutting layout wastes too much material, the cost spreads across hundreds or thousands of pairs. You watch a senior worker lift a freshly cut panel and hold it against the pattern guide. The difference is tiny, barely visible from where you stand. But she rejects it immediately. Too close to the edge, she says. You realize this is not just cutting, it is control before anyone else can see the problem. Then you're asked to load the next sheet. Your hands move carefully across the fabric, smoothing it from the center outward. The machine waits. The worker beside you waits. The line behind this room waits without standing in front of you. For the first time, you feel how the factory stacks pressure invisibly. The people sewing upstairs depend on your accuracy. The assembly workers depend on your cuts. The final pair depends on this table. You press the sheet flat, check the guide, and step back. The blade starts moving, and once the material is cut, there is no way to make it whole again. Level 3, the stitching line operator. At level 3, you sit down for the first time. But sitting does not mean resting. You are placed at a stitching station shoulder to shoulder with workers who move faster than you can think. The room is filled with the rapid tapping of needles, the buzz of motors, the slide of fabric under pressure feet, and the soft snap of thread being cut. Under the harsh white lights, sneaker panels move from hand to hand, slowly becoming uppers. This is where flat pieces begin to look alive. Your job is to guide the material under the needle, keep the seam straight, and attach each part in the right order. Side panel, tongue, heel support, lining, reinforcement strip. Every piece has a place, every stitch has a reason. At first your hands feel clumsy, the fabric pulls slightly. The thread tension feels too tight. The edge of one panel wants to shift away from the guide. The worker beside you does not look up, but you can feel how much faster she is. She has the rhythm already. You are still chasing it. The factory does not punish you with shouting. It punishes you with pace. A cart of cut pieces waits on your left. Finished stitched sections pile up on your right. If you slow down, the pile on the left grows. If you rush, the seam curves. If the seam curves, someone downstream may have to fight the mistake during assembly, or quality control may reject the shoe entirely. You begin to understand that stitching is not decoration. It is structure. A crooked seam can change how the upper sits on the foot. A weak stitch can fail after the shoe is sold. A wrinkle trapped under the thread can make a new sneaker look cheap before it ever reaches a store. Then your needle line drifts. Only a little. You stop, breath caught in your chest. The senior worker beside you glances over, takes the piece gently, and shows you where the curve begins. She does not make it dramatic. That somehow makes it worse. Again, she says, so you do it again, and again. By the end of the shift, your back aches, your eyes burn, and the sound of needles still echoes in your head. But when you hold one finished upper in your hands, you feel something change. This is no longer just material. It has shape, it has tension, it has the first sign of identity. At level 2, you learned that once material is cut, it cannot be made whole again. At level 3, you learn that once pieces are stitched together, every small mistake becomes part of the shoe's face. And now the factory sends you to the part where the shoe stops being soft and meets the sole that carries all its weight. Level 4, the sole molding assistant. At level 4, the factory gets hotter. You leave the stitching line and step into the sole molding area, where the sneaker begins to gain weight, shape, and grip. The air smells different here. Warmer, heavier, filled with new rubber, heated material, and machine oil. Industrial fans push the air across the room, but they do not remove the feeling that this part of the factory runs on pressure. Metal molds sit in rows like heavy jaws. Some are open, waiting for material. Some are clamped shut inside machines. Some have just released fresh outsoles that still look slightly too perfect, like they have been born from heat instead of hands. Your job is to assist the molding process. You prepare molds, check sizes, place materials in the correct trays, remove finished soles carefully, trim extra edges, stack them by model, color, and size before they move toward assembly. At first the sole seems simple compared to the upper. It is only the bottom of the shoe. Then a technician shows you a rejected piece. The shape is almost right, but one side is slightly warped. Another has extra material along the edge. Another feels too stiff. Another has a small surface flaw in a place most customers may never examine closely. But the factory examines everything. A sneaker can survive an ugly thread better than it can survive a bad sole. The sole carries weight. It touches pavement. It bends with every step. If the fit is wrong, the entire shoe feels wrong, no matter how beautiful the upper looks. You begin to understand why the molds are treated with such care. A dirty mold can leave marks. A worn mold can change the shape. A rushed release can bend the edge. A mismatched size can create problems that do not appear until assembly, when someone tries to join the perfect upper to an imperfect base. Then one mold opens and the sole inside does not release cleanly. The worker beside you stops immediately. For a moment, the machine noise seems to fade. You feel the same fear from the cutting room, and the stitching line return in a new form. This time, the mistake is not soft fabric or thread. It is heat, shape, and material hardened into something difficult to fix. The technician steps in, checks the mold, and asks you to separate the affected pieces. You place them in the reject tray carefully. At level 3, you learn that stitching gives the shoe its face. At level 4, you learn that the sole gives the shoe its truth. Because when a sneaker finally reaches the ground, nobody sees the pressure that shaped it. But everyone feels it with every step. Level 5, the glue and assembly worker. At level 5, the sneaker finally becomes whole. You step into the assembly area where uppers arrive from stitching and soles arrive from molding, each one perfect only in its own separate world. Now they have to become one object, one shape, one pair. Something clean enough to sit on a store shelf under bright lights, waiting for someone to want it. The air here carries a controlled smell of adhesive, warm rubber, fabric, and ventilation. Racks of unfinished shoes move between stations. Workers check alignment, apply bonding material, place uppers over lasts, match soles by size, and prepare each piece for pressing. Your job is to help join the upper to the sole. It sounds simple until you see how little room there is for error. A few millimeters too far forward and the toe looks wrong. A slight tilt and the shoe leans. Too much adhesive and the edge looks messy. Too little and the bond may fail later. Press too soon and the parts shift. Wait too long and the timing is lost. This is where separate mistakes come together. A cut that was barely off. A stitch that pulled slightly tight. A sole that cooled with the smallest uneven edge. Alone, each issue may seem manageable, but when they meet at assembly, the factory can no longer hide them from itself. You hold an upper in both hands and place it over the form. The material resists slightly. The sole waits beneath it. A senior worker watches your angle, then taps the heel area with one finger. "Center it again," she says. You adjust. This time the lines match. The shoe goes into the press, the machine closes with a firm, heavy sound, and for a moment you feel the whole factory holding its breath. When it opens, there it is. Not just pieces anymore, but a real sneaker. You should feel proud. Instead, you feel more pressure. Because now the product looks finished. A mistake can hide more easily. A weak bond can survive your station. A slight misalignment can pass at first glance. And the shoe may look fine until quality control turns it in the light and sees what you missed. At level 4, you learn that the sole carries the truth of every step. At level 5, you learn that assembly is where all previous levels come together, and where one careless moment can trap every hidden flaw inside a shoe that looks ready for the world. And once the sneaker looks complete, someone has to decide whether it is good enough to leave. Level 6, the quality control inspector. At level 6, the sneaker reaches your table looking finished. That is what makes the job dangerous. A finished sneaker has confidence. It has shape, color, stitching, sole, laces, and form. It looks ready for a store shelf, ready for a photo, ready for someone to pick it up and imagine wearing it. But under the bright quality control lights, your job is to distrust that first impression. You turn the shoe in your hands, you check the stitching around the upper, the glue line near the sole, the shape of the toe box, the symmetry between left and right, the color match, the heel alignment, the flex of the sole, the clean edge where materials meet. You compare it with a reference sample. You run your eyes across the surface slowly, even while more shoes arrive beside you. There is always pressure to move faster. Finished pairs keep coming. Workers upstream want their output accepted. Managers want the batch cleared. Shipping needs boxes filled. But quality control asks a colder question. What happens if the customer sees what the factory ignored? You find a pair that almost passes. The stitching is clean. The sole feels right. The color is close, but when you place the shoes side by side, one heel sits slightly higher than the other. Not enough to shock anyone, Not enough to be obvious from across the room, but enough. You mark it for review. A line leader walks over and looks at the pair. You can feel the frustration before he speaks. Every rejected shoe means wasted labor, wasted material, delayed numbers. But if you approve it, the mistake leaves the factory with permission. So you show him the difference. You rotate the shoe under the lamp. You explain that a customer may not know exactly what is wrong, but they will feel it. A shoe can fail without breaking. It can fail by feeling cheap, uneven, careless. The line leader exhales and nods. The pair goes into the reject area. At level 5, you watch separate parts become a finished sneaker. At level 6, you learn that finished does not mean acceptable. Quality control is the uncomfortable gate between factory pride and customer disappointment. You are not there to slow the system down. You are there to stop the system from lying to itself. And once you learn how to reject the product, the factory sends you toward the machines that decide whether the line can keep moving at all. Level 7. The Machine Technician. At level 7, the sneaker factory stops sounding like a place of steady production. It becomes a place where one stopped machine can silence an entire section of the floor. The alarm begins as a sharp light near the sole press station. Then the conveyor slows. Workers look up. A half-finished line of shoes sits frozen between stations, uppers waiting for soles, soles waiting for pressure, boxes waiting for products that are no longer moving. This time they call you. You arrive with a tool bag, safety glasses, gloves, and a tablet loaded with machine diagnostics. The workers step aside as if the machine has become an injured animal and you are the only one allowed close enough to touch it. Your job is to make the line breathe again. The problem could be mechanical, electrical, or something smaller than everyone expects. A sensor may be blocked, a belt may have slipped, a press alignment may be slightly off, a needle assembly, cutter head, or conveyor guide may need adjustment. The factory does not care which one it is. It only knows that while the machine is down, the order is falling behind. A supervisor checks the time. You feel it without looking. Every minute has weight. But rushing can create a second failure. If you reset the machine without finding the cause, the same fault may return. If you force the press too quickly, shoes may come out misaligned. If you ignore the warning, the machine may run, but the product may suffer quietly until QC catches the damage. You open the side panel and lean in. Warm air rises from the machine. The smell of rubber, adhesive, metal, and lubricant surrounds you. Inside, the problem is not dramatic. A small guide has shifted just enough to throw off the pressure path. Just enough. That is what factories teach you. Disaster often begins as just enough. You adjust the guide, run a test cycle, and watch the press close over a sample shoe. Everyone waits. The machine opens, the alignment holds, the line starts again. No one celebrates for long. The shoes move, the workers return, and the factory swallows the moment as if it never happened. At level 6, you learned how to stop a bad product from leaving. At level 7, you learn how fragile motion really is. Because behind every smooth production line, there is always someone listening for the first sound of failure. And once you can keep the machines alive, the next level asks whether you can keep the people, numbers, and deadlines alive too. Level 8. The shift leader/production manager. At level 8, you stop thinking about one shoe, one machine, or one mistake. Now the whole shift becomes your responsibility. You stand on the production floor with a radio clipped to your vest, a tablet in your hand, and 3 different problems arriving before the first hour is over. The stitching line is behind target. Quality control is holding several pairs for review. A sole press needs a short maintenance check. Shipping wants confirmation that today's order will still leave on time. Everyone looks at you for an answer. The factory is louder from this position. Not because the machines have changed, but because now every sound means something. A slowed conveyor means lost output. A raised hand means a worker needs help. A warning light means a decision is coming. A quiet worker may mean fatigue, frustration, or a mistake waiting to happen. Your job is not to do the work faster. Your job is to make the system survive the day. You walk from line to line, assigning people where they are needed most. You move an experienced stitcher to support a slower station. You give maintenance a small window before the press fails completely. You tell QC to keep checking the held pairs even though production wants the batch cleared. You call shipping and give them the truth, not the answer they want. Nobody is fully satisfied. That is how you know the decision is real. A worker asks if the line will run late again. A supervisor reminds you of the target. QC says the defect pattern may continue if you push too hard. The technician says the machine needs more time than people want to give it. At lower levels, pressure came through your hands, your eyes, your back. Now pressure comes through people. You remember being the new worker afraid of one red scanner beep. Now you are the person whose decision can make someone stay late, slow a shipment, protect quality, or hide a problem until tomorrow. By the end of the shift, the numbers are not perfect, but the line is honest. The workers are still speaking up. The defective pairs did not leave. The machine did not fail. At level 7, you learned how to keep machines moving. At level 8, you learn that leadership is not making everyone happy. It is choosing which pressure the factory can carry without breaking. And above the production floor, another system is waiting. One where shoes, materials, containers, and global demand move faster than any single factory can control. Level 9, the Regional Supply Chain Director. At level 9, the sneaker factory becomes smaller, not because it matters less, but because you are no longer looking at only one building. You are looking at a network. On the screen in front of you, the production floor becomes one dot among many. Material suppliers, stitching facilities, sole factories, packaging vendors, warehouses, ports, trucks, container routes, and retail distribution centers. The sounds of the factory are gone now. No cutting blades, no sewing needles, no sole presses, no workers calling across the line. Only quiet screens, and somehow the pressure is larger. Your job is to make sure the right materials arrive before the factory needs them, the right shoes leave before stores run empty, and the right forecasts are trusted before the market changes again. A delay appears on the map. A shipment of upper material is late. Another warehouse has excess soles in the wrong size. One factory is ahead of schedule while another is short on packaging. The marketing team expects demand to rise for a certain model, but sales data from another region suggests the trend may be slowing. Every decision moves pressure somewhere else. If you rush the material by air, cost rises. If you wait for the delayed shipment, the factory may lose production time. If you shift inventory from another region, that region may suffer next week. If you trust the trend forecast and it is wrong, thousands of pairs may sit in warehouses, perfect but unwanted. You approve a partial reroute. You warn the factory early. You shift some inventory, protect the highest priority orders, and accept that not every market will get exactly what it wanted. The decision looks clean on the screen. But you know what it means below. A shift leader will change staffing. A worker may stay late. A warehouse team will reload pallets. A truck will leave at a different hour. Someone far from this office will feel the weight of a choice they never saw being made. At level 8, you learn to manage pressure inside one shift. At level 9, you learn that supply chain is the art of moving pressure across distance without pretending it disappears. And above even this network, there is one final level. The people who decide which sneaker the world should want in the first place. Level 10. The Global Sneaker Brand Decision Maker. At level 10, you are no longer inside the factory. You are in a clean global brand office, sitting at a long table where the sneakers are not stacked in carts or packed into boxes. They are placed carefully under soft lights as samples, prototypes, colorways, and future releases. They look beautiful here. Quiet, controlled, far away from the noise that created them. Around you sit designers, marketing leads, finance teams, supply chain directors, and regional executives. On the wall, a world map glows beside trend charts and sales forecasts. No one is talking about tired hands, jammed machines, crooked seams, or late containers. They are talking about demand. Which model should launch next? Which colorway will sell fastest? Which market should receive the first shipment? How many pairs should be ordered? How high can the price go before customers hesitate? How quickly can the factories scale? You look at the sample sneaker in front of you. At level 1, this was only material in a warehouse. At level 2, it was cut into shape. At level 3, it was stitched by hands moving faster than thought. At level 4, its sole was shaped by heat and pressure. At level 5, its pieces were bonded together. At level 6, it had to prove it deserved to leave. At level 7, machines had to keep moving. At level 8, people had to carry the shift. At level 9, the whole region had to move materials and products before the world changed its mind. Now all of that sits inside one decision. You can approve a larger order and make the numbers look strong. But a larger order means more materials, more shifts, more pressure on suppliers, more overtime risk, more containers, more warehouse space, and more chances for the system to hide its strain behind clean reports. You can approve a smaller order and protect the system. But if demand explodes, stores may run out. Competitors may win attention, and the brand may lose the moment. There is no perfect answer, only consequences with better lighting. So when your turn comes, you do not only ask what the market wants, you ask what the system can produce without breaking the people inside it. You approve the launch, but with a slower ramp, stronger quality gates, more realistic delivery windows, and a warning that desire should not move faster than the factory can safely follow. Some executives look disappointed. Some nod. Some only look back at the numbers. At the highest level, power does not feel like victory. It feels like distance. You no longer smell rubber, fabric, glue, or cardboard. You no longer hear cutting blades, sewing needles, or sole presses. But every decision you make still travels down into the hands of people who do. You started by sorting pieces no one noticed. Now you decide what the world will want next. You began in the material warehouse, holding pieces that did not look valuable yet. Fabric, rubber, foam, laces, cardboard. Small parts waiting in bins and carts, far away from the store display where a sneaker looks clean, finished, and desirable. At the bottom, your world was physical. Scanners, pallets, tired hands, bright lights, and the fear of sending one wrong material into the system. Then you climbed. You watched flat material become cut panels. You stitched those panels into uppers. You shaped soles with heat and pressure. You joined the upper and sole into something that finally looked like a real sneaker. You learned that a finished shoe can still hide a flaw, that a stopped machine can freeze an entire line, and that managing a shift means carrying the pressure of workers, quality, machines, deadlines, and orders all at once. Higher up, the sneaker stopped being only a product. It became inventory, forecasts, containers, store demand, regional pressure, global strategy. At the top, the shoe sat quietly on a boardroom table while people discussed trends, markets, price, and scale. But you knew what was hidden inside it. Not just design, not just branding, not just fashion. Labor, timing, heat, mistakes. Corrections, pressure. A sneaker is never just a sneaker. It is a ladder of invisible work compressed into something people wear without thinking. Every clean pair on a shelf has passed through hands, machines, inspections, meetings, routes, and decisions most customers will never see. And that is the secret behind every global product. The closer it gets to the consumer, the cleaner it looks. But the deeper you go behind it, the more human it becomes. If you want to see another hidden system from the bottom to the top, comment which factory, brand, or global supply chain we should enter next. And subscribe for more stories from inside every level.